As part of efforts to ensure a safer Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, has announced that the force is set to commence the full implementation of the community policing strategy. Mr. Adamu offered his assurance at the monthly conference with commissioners of police and senior officers of the force in Abuja, where he pledged to improve the overall efficiency of the police. While announcing the successes recorded by the force in the last 1 year, the IGP gave residents the assurance that measures have been put in place to make Nigeria safer before, during and after the Yuletide.
As a guide, however, let me inform you that the agenda of the force in the upcoming years will focus on 5 thematic areas as follows. 1. Improving the overall efficiency of the force through capacity building in policing, technology, intelligence, investigation, prosecutions, as well as crime prevention and control through a more robust, visible policing architecture. 2. Full implementation of community policing strategy and strengthening of our strategies with a view to aligning them to projected crimes and thereby remaining ahead of criminal elements and sustaining the current gains we have recorded in our internal security management functions.
Now, nearly 2 weeks after President Muhammadu Buhari launched the 2019 National Security Strategy in Abuja, heads of government agencies and parastatals have been asked to ensure its full implementation. The directive comes from the Office of the National Security Advisor, who believes the objectives of the document can only be realized through strong collaboration among government agencies. According to the NSA, the initiative focuses on addressing the socio-economic challenges threatening national security.
On December 4th this year, President Buhari launched the 2019 National Security Strategy at the Presidential Villa. The document spells out strategies to tackle present and anticipated challenges that may confront the nation.
Welcome all our critical stakeholders.
At this sensitization workshop with heads of government agencies and parastatals in Abuja, the Office of the National Security Advisor highlights the importance of a strong collaboration among government agencies to ensure the full implementation of the documents.
It is imperative to state at this juncture that producing a national security strategy document is meaningless if its contents are not holistically implemented. Critical to the implementation is understanding the process for developing and formulation of the document in order to guard against describing the granular details, specific policies of ministries, departments and agencies in the document.
The first national security strategy was launched in 2014 to address the then security challenges, which include insurgency in the northeast and kidnapping by militant groups in the Niger Delta region. The current security challenges in the country, however, appear to have taken a new dimension that requires the government to think up new strategies to address the situation.
The NSS document, in line with the United Nations, we have moved it not completely away, but we have moved it substantially to a situation where human security is the key. And what do we mean by human security? Food, job, shelter, peace and tranquility, because the human being is at the core of the security of any nation.
You have to understand the nature of kidnapping itself, understand the factors behind kidnapping, and then begin to address those factors, essentially using technology as a technique, and also changing the environment that has created the condition for kidnapping.
Nigeria has had a fair share of internal security challenges that keep changing its nature. It is hoped that the new national security strategy will provide the needed guide for relevant agencies of government to address insecurity once and for all, no matter the form it takes.
And as a security fallout, a campaign that will help reduce the suffering of victims of bandits in Zamfara is being spearheaded by the state government, which will include the empowerment of over 3,500 women. And while approving details at a meeting on how to restore peace in the state, the Director General in charge of security, Mr. Musa Liman, gave the assurance that thousands of children will be enrolled in schools by the state government.
The northwest and north-central Nigeria have experienced instances of hostilities like banditry, cattle rustling and kidnappings. Zamfara State is one of the most affected in the two regions, with 6,419 persons displaced as at November 2019, and that is according to the International Organization for Migration. 5,100 women and children were amongst those affected. But the state government is making plans to ensure that those affected gain means of livelihoods.
Recognizing the impact of the violence and insecurity on women and children, the work the government has also engaged in supporting the devastated women groups. Thus, a women empowerment program has commenced where over 3,500 women have already benefited from this empowerment financial assistance towards their local businesses across the state.
Insufficient security architecture in rural areas, rising poverty and weak governance are attributed to the continued insecurity in the northwest region. But with concerted efforts from all, the challenges are surmountable.
Basically, what we need is to see robust peace-building initiatives that is able to characterize all the actors, that will be able to isolate criminal groups from community groups, that will be able to initiate peace-building mechanisms that will strengthen trust and the creation of a better security architecture for the rural areas and provision of additional humanitarian support.
Meeting the humanitarian needs of persons affected by insurgency can be tasking. The French embassy has offered to assist.
France has just launched a new global humanitarian strategy for the next 4 years. It is aimed to bolster the humanitarian development peace nexus by providing an integrated response to emergency situations that require joint analysis of the context and concerted planning of actions on the ground.
Between January and April 2019, a number of operations by the Nigerian Army, such as Operation Harbin Kunama, Operation Diramikia, and Operation Puff Ada, were carried out to tackle banditry in the northwest. Bringing succor to those affected by activities of these bandits will go a long way.
And still on security, the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole says its fighter jets have neutralized some Islamic State of West Africa province fighters as they assembled for a meeting at their hideout on the fringes of Lake Chad in the northern part of Borno State. According to Air Force spokesman Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, the operation was executed on Saturday, December the 14th, following credible intelligence reports indicating that some ISWAP leaders had assembled for a meeting in one of the two buildings at the center of the settlement. He adds that the jets scored accurate hits on the target building, completely obliterating it and killing its terrorist occupants. And from security to politics now, and Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State insists his administration is making reasonable progress in its developmental programs for the people, even in the face of adversity within the All Progressives Congress. Mr. Obaseki was speaking to journalists after the weekly Executive Council meeting at the Government House in Benin City, the Edo State capital. He says the recent troubles within the party are all a part of a ploy to throw him off track at a time when the state is achieving a lot.
It's interesting that at a time we are receiving all these awards, which are acknowledgements of what we have achieved, there are forces from within who are fighting the progress we have made and saying they don't want it to continue. It's quite ironic that within the week where the Tribune was giving us awards, where we were receiving awards in the area of technology, in the area of ICT, in the area of entrepreneurships, that same week we were being invaded from outside by some strange elements who have some very interesting ideas of what governance should be in Edo State in 2019, going 2020. I'm not realizing that these ideas are far outdated and the people of Edo State know better and they are moving on. Clearly, they meant it to be, but you can see it's not been. We're working hard. Tomorrow we're having a workshop on health insurance, which is one of the first in the country. Tomorrow the governor of the central bank is coming in here to launched the Edo State Oil Palm Program, which is the largest and most ambitious plantation program on the continent today. And we're doing so many other things we set out to do. Their intention was to slow us down, to distract us. But with God on our side and with the people for us, they can't succeed.
Meanwhile, the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress has lifted the suspension clamped on 5 senior members of the party at various times. They are Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State, Senator Ibikunle Amosun, Senator Russia Sokorocha, Mr. Osita Ogechukwu, and Mr. Usani Ugurisani. A statement from the APC National Publicity Secretary Lanre Issa Onilu explains that suspension is being lifted in line with the party's deliberate policy of fairness and actions targeted at ensuring harmony within its ranks. According to the APC spokesman, through the suspension, our party has shown the capacity and willingness to implement its own rules and enforce discipline when there is an infraction. The statement asked the recalled party members to fully reconcile with their wards, local governments and state party structures and continue to make their own contributions to growth and stability of the party. To legal matters now, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says the federal government is guided by extant laws and tradition of the law in handling legal matters and related litigations. Mr. Malami's position is contained in a statement by his Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations, Umar Gwandu. According to Mr. Gwandu, the minister was responding to a media report claiming that a senior lawyer had written to the AGF requesting for the release of the convener of the Revolution Now movement, Omoyele Sowore. He says when parties submit their issues for determination to a court of law, they lack exclusivity of decision over such issues without recourse to the court. Mr. Malami insists that his office remains guided by the established tradition and will not take any unilateral decision without recourse to the rule of law. Indeed, the lawyer to the embattled convener of the Revolution Now protest had earlier asked the Attorney General of the Federation to secure the release of Mr. Sowore from the custody of the Department of State Services. Mr. Femi Falana said in a letter to the Justice Minister that a team of lawyers had visited the DSS to have Mr. Sowore released, but was advised to go through the AGF since his case file had been moved to Mr. Malami's office. Mr. Falana is therefore asking the AGF to direct the Security Service to release Mr. Sowore from custody in line with the order of the Federal High Court. Despite court orders, the activist was rearrested less than 24 hours after he was released, and he has been in the DSS custody since then. Mr. Sowore was arrested in August for planning a nationwide protest.